Hi, Lisa White, IVF coach and creator of IVF Manifesting a Miracle, here for a really special Soul Sister conversation with Krista Ripma. Hey, Krista.
Hi, thanks for having me.
Hey, this is such an honor, honestly. I mean, I got connected with you 3 years ago, and I'll share about that. But just to introduce you to everybody, you are a marketing coach, a launch strategist, the co-founder of Authentic Audience. You have an amazing podcast, Authentic Audience Podcast, and you're creating so many amazing things. One of them I'm a part of called Witchy Business, and bringing on a few other titles, which I'll have you share. But it's such a joy to be connected with you, truly.
Thank you. I'm so happy you're in Witchy Business. I hate to say this, but it's my favorite offering I've ever done. And I feel like who's ever not in it is just totally missing out.
I mean, when you put this offer out there, so Witchy Business, for those of you who might not even be aware, like Witchy Business, like what is that? Those of you, the people in my community that I like to support, we're all in this aligned spiritual kind of space where, we value connection, we value doing things differently, and it's an inward journey, becoming more of who we are. And you have gone through so many personal transformations over the last few years. I've seen the growth, being witness to it. And, just kind of cool how 3 years ago, I discovered you at an event where you were a speaker and you did a talk on marketing your Dharma. Mm-hmm. And I took a lot of notes, and just to kind of kick it off, you talked about really living your truth, and that your work is aligned with your purpose. And can you share a bit about like what has been your purpose these days in your business? And,
Yeah. I love the area that we get to play, because that's really where we're connecting our clients with their customers and like with their audience. Yeah. And it feels so purposeful to help these incredible people with these incredible gifts find their people that they're here to serve. So ultimately it feels like we're serving those people too, because we're the ones that are helping our clients find them and reach them, and with the right messaging or with the right offers or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. So I think my purpose is connection and communication and just doing business in a very radically honest way. And we get to do that through our company and through our connections and collaborations, like what we're doing right now, talking about it. And so helping people do that has just been such a beautiful journey. And marketing can seem, I don't know, maybe like salesy or shallow or, not lacking depth. Mm-hmm. But I feel that what we do is like very deep and very meaningful, and can come up. Our clients meet a lot of resistance and self-doubt. And there's just like so much self-growth for anyone that's an entrepreneur listening. Like it's the most spiritual journey.
It is.
And lonely. And so I think when we can help other entrepreneurs and other business owners, healers, artists, people with just incredible gifts and services find the people that they're here to serve, it's just like in flow. Mm-hmm. And a win-win for everyone. So that's our purpose. And
you're so good at it. You're so good at cultivating community and the Witchy Business community, just getting inspired by different speakers and learning about others' gifts. And really,
that's my favorite thing. That I'm glad you said that, because whether it's on the podcast or in Witchy Business, like lighting other people up, reminding them they can fly, like reminding them who they are really on a spiritual level. So yeah, it's so fun.
It really is. And like your conversations on your podcast, I've been really fortunate to just dive into a lot of them. And you have a Katie. I need a Katie, by the way. Your assistant.
Everyone needs a Katie.
Your assistant. I'm like, oh my gosh, the organization and the I love that. She was wonderful in helping me set this up. But you did a chat back in, it was last year, 2001, about mental health, and really diving in about your personal kind of how do I want to say it? I mean, it was just so raw and real and honest about looking at like your self-care practices, looking at setting boundaries. You talked about the importance of energy management, availability, setting boundaries. I mean, it was really rich and raw. I just want to thank you and opening up about how important taking care of oneself is like essential in any area.
I mean, it's become like a fundamental sort of foundation of the work that we help our clients do now. It's so important. And for so long, I was on that burnout train,
Mm-hmm.
and I've struggled, with anxiety and depression for so much of my life. And to sort of be running a business in the midst of a global pandemic and burnout, I mean, and just there's so much happening, and just the state of the world. And so I think, I don't remember exactly what had happened that I decided to record that episode, but I just think it's so important to use my platform in that way and to talk about mental health. And really the realization came for me that my business can only be as healthy as me. And so that's really the foundation. We started Witchy Business with that, and looking at our own health and how we can nourish and take care of ourselves and put ourselves first. I think especially as women, it doesn't come naturally to put ourselves first in that way.
It doesn't. No, and I just, as a reminder, it was about being available to everyone, how we're so available to everybody. And it was such a reminder to me, like turning off the phone. And
it's so hard for me to be unavailable.
I agree.
I literally tie my self-worth to being available for people. And that was a big realization that I had, because early on in business, I was a assistant or like an executive admin. And so I had to be available all the time. And it was like this jump when the phone rings, sort of like fight or flight reaction.
Nervous system kicks in.
To my job. And that's sort of like how I was introduced to the world of business. And so I just assumed in order to be valuable to somebody, I had to be available all the time. And if I wasn't, then they wouldn't find me valuable. And I had clients like, I mean, talk about boundary crossing, like texting me at 1 a.m., 7-minute voice notes, about their launch that was the next day, like just so inappropriate on so many levels. And I was just enabling it for so long. So I finally actually changed my number.
Yeah.
That's what happened. And I like hit this wall where I was like, I need to be less available. I can't do it anymore. And it was right around the time that we were trying to get pregnant, and I'm just, and now since I am pregnant this year, I think that there's just less, I'm putting less pressure on myself to be available to everybody. And I kind of have this hall pass, which is interesting because they don't expect me to call back right away.
I mean, gotta set up those boundaries, for people to respect you.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard. It's really hard. It's easier said than done, but being on the other side of it, let me tell you, I feel, and I don't feel FOMO, like when I'm like missing out on group text chains or things like I really feel peace in the end.
Have you heard, I went to Oprah's and Gail. So they had a chat here in Denver right before COVID. They talked about this, and Oprah's got, I got the JOMO. I got the joy of missing out. I was like, that is so perfect.
I have that right now. All of my friends are going to the Trevor Hall show tonight in New York. Like my best friend group, even some of my cousins are going, like everyone, like normally my FOMO would just be like through the roof, so upset. I'm like, I'm so happy for you guys. Have so much fun. Like, I love this for you. And I think that's been like such a gift to a pregnancy for me, is like not even wanting to be everywhere all the time anymore.
Yeah. There's a gift in just kind of getting quiet and centering ourselves, focusing on ourselves and tending to our needs. You talked a lot about that in that episode about soothing your nervous system. And I write a lot about that. I have a whole chapter on, self-care. And as women are going through fertility challenges, it's so important to just kind of calm that fight or flight and tap into more of that rest and digest. Like, let's bring in more ease to our system.
Yeah. I mean, especially I think with the fertility filter, I have so many friends struggling and on the IVF journey, and it's so stressful.
Very.
And I had this healer say to me when I was in Baja, and I just shared this on my most recent podcast, that I mean, take this for what it is, because you're the specialist, and he's this like healer with a, ponytail and this whole like, experience down in Baja. But he was like, I just want women to know that in order to conceive, they need to be in their parasympathetic state. And it's as simple as that. And I was kind of like, I feel like there might be something to that, because if you think about the energy of that state, it's receptive, it's surrendered, it's almost like the ultimate feminine. And so I took that very seriously the week that I was trying to conceive, and I created what I call a parasympathetic sanctuary, where I was like, totally set this portal where like nothing was going to put me in fight or flight, which is my automatic, like that's where I live.
And most people do on this ride. You're in this heightened state all the time.
Yeah. And so to be in that Zen, receptive, I actually had an intuitive tell me about 10 years ago, oh, you're going to need a lot of yin yoga to get pregnant. And I was like, what? But I totally get it, because I'm so like, high strung. And so especially with getting pregnant, there's so much stress on that.
Oh yeah.
And especially if you're doing IVF or you're in a doctor's office, and it's just not, you're not, automatically going to be in that state. And so that was a big learning for me. And I came home and I was obsessed over it, and learning that it takes 48 hours to come down. So if you do have, in my world, maybe a panic attack with anxiety or something that really sets me off, it's going to take a couple of days for me to be able to even drop back into that. And that's new information for me. And since I learned all that and then have combined it with like the self-soothing and the soothing of the nervous system, I'm like, there's something to this.
Very much. I love that you're bringing this up, because this is honestly why I created, my offering was just clinics, doctors, they don't have the time to address, they're handling the medical side of this process, the procedures, the medications, surgeries, all those things. And there's this whole other feminine side that's very overlooked, and taking a more soulful approach is what I'm all about. So I love that you speak about getting in alignment, really, like not mentally and physically only, but spiritually too. It's just,
yeah. And I mean, what do I know, right? But at the end of the day, my belief is that it's incredibly impactful on the journey to becoming a mother. And my journey didn't start, with rainbows and butterflies either. I had a miscarriage last year, and that was super traumatic on me. And I learned so much through that experience about my body. It was like such a mini initiation in so many ways. And from that, I really deeply believe like we set such a sacred portal to call this baby in this time around. I mean, I prepared my body and spirit for months. And then when we were actually ready to conceive, we like lit every candle in the house, like rang all the bells, said all the prayers, and I believe with every ounce of me that contribute, like that spiritual alignment contributed to our journey.
that's so beautiful.
Yeah.
I know you're big into Reiki, and you're certified as well, right? Matt, you teach people master level, right? I'm not at the master level. I'm still level 2, but
yeah, you're probably better than me.
oh my goodness. No, Reiki, I mean, it's powerful, and it was so effective for me going through IVF. And have you tried it while you've been trying to conceive, when you were trying to conceive? And
yeah, so that's actually what kicked me into spiritual alignment, right before the week that we tried, because the last thing that I really did was I was in Baja leading a mind body business, talking about this holistic approach retreat with just 25 incredible women. Like I was so held by this, powerful, so many moms were there, and it was just a powerful experience. And on the last day, I had a Reiki session with my master, Allison, and I was on the table, and literally heard from the ethers, oh, did you hear Krista had her baby? And that's how this vision started. And I saw these little blips on the table in my mind's eye of my whole journey, like backwards, doing Reiki. And so there I was post birth, like baby on my chest, quick blip. The next one, I was like so pregnant over summer, like hot out in my backyard. The next one was hearing the heartbeat. The next one was finding out we were pregnant, like all the way back to me lying on the Reiki table.
Oh my gosh.
And that was the first time since my miscarriage, because the fear was just so strong, that I actually believed like this is going to happen. Like this is possible.
Yeah.
And I think especially I have friends on the IVF journey, very close friends right now, like in all areas of my life, on all different parts of the journey with IVF. And that fear of like, this isn't going to happen, this isn't going to happen. And that buildup, I had that too, up until that Reiki healing. And I left the healing like, holy shit, I'm going to have a baby. Like I believed it. And it wasn't until then that like the real spiritual, I think, connection and what they call baby fever kicked in. Because I went from like, yeah, I could try again maybe soon after this like big traumatic miscarriage, to like, can't eat, can't sleep, whatever it takes, I'm getting pregnant, let's go, after that Reiki healing. So needless to say, Reiki has been a very powerful part of my journey. And I think it can just help us tap into things we didn't even know were blocked.
Exactly. I mean, it's such a powerful energy work that for those who aren't aware of it, definitely look into it for yourself. And I even offer virtual sessions. It's so powerful.
I can't recommend it enough, especially when we're working with like a very Western system. I have found going through just medical, the healthcare system, it's very patriarchal and like masculine. And there's not a lot of that like holistic, spiritual, even nutrition. I've had to like really find my tribe of people who are supporting me. I have an incredible OB who's like very much into like midwifery, and we're in California, so like she's very, very like open as an MD, but still there's just like these restrictions. Even though I'm giving birth in such a beautiful, birthing center and like the whole thing, but you still need, like, I wouldn't be surviving this without my Reiki master, my witch.
You're going to start a new whole industry of witchy doula,
I mean, I'm telling you. And
I feel like kind of as a coach, as an IVF coach, it's like, I'm in this, I'm out of the box. I'm not a traditional fertility coach. I'm doing it very differently. And that's how I lived it.
Yeah. And I think it's so important, the work you're doing, especially, I'm thinking about my friends going through IVF right now. And so a couple of them didn't have any of that holistic influence during like their first couple of rounds. And then once they start maybe introducing acupuncture or, spiritual work and some of that stuff, it just like changes the whole game. So yeah, I just think it needs to be holistic. We need both. And I'm so grateful that I can easily drive down the street and get my blood work drawn, like for the whole Western experience, and that I have insurance and I'm taken care of. But oh man, I'm so thankful for like my coaches and guides and healers.
Like, finding our tribe. I mean, it's so important. And have you found that the right people kind of show up in your life when you're open and to receiving? That's how it's been for me, at least. I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. I think, as soon as you put it out there, like, this is what I'm looking for, the same thing very similarly happened with the doula that we just found. And turns out like through, she's so recommended through all of these, strings, and we just found her this one way. And so, yeah, I think we're all super connected. And when you just set the intention of like, I'm going to go all in here, and that is 6 months ago how I felt about getting pregnant. Like, I'm going all in. I need to prep my body. I need to prep my spirit. I need to prep my business. I felt so unprepared the first time and so traumatized by the miscarriage. It felt like such a gift that I'm like, okay, clearly not prepared. And now I'm going to take about 6 months to just go all in, especially with IVF or, any fertility experiences. So much of it is out of our control and unknown. And so I'm like, well, what I can control is my health for the next 6 months. And what I can control is my prayers for the next 6 months and my energy. And so I just, everything I could control, I like devoted really to. I took this like Ramayana course on the, this breakdown of this deep spiritual text and was like chanting to Hanuman. I mean, I really did all of
I love it. We'll have to talk off camera too. I want to learn more.
I did it all.
It's like the ultimate surrender. And, I think something you said, and it's like, I hear a lot of women thinking they need to do, they have to do, they need to do, but it's like almost flipping the narrative of like, I get to do this. I get to choose to go about it in a different way, like it is a choosing, because there's so much of the pressure of like, I have to eat the right food, or I have to do acupuncture. I need to do this. I need to work out. And it's like, okay, like if we strip a lot of it away of the needing and just the being, it's shifting into a new way of being, and you're embodying it right now.
Yeah. I mean, I'm in it. I don't feel that I'm out the other side by any means. I'm like in the blooming, but I can say that from somebody who has been very fight or flight, very type A, very operating from like a fear-based space, especially with my pregnancy journey. I mean, I had this story in my head for years that I wasn't going to be able to get pregnant because I had like a twisted fallopian tube when I was 16. And it was fixed. Like I just had that, like the stories we tell ourselves.
It's so true.
Stress we put on ourselves. And so I'm that person, and finding this path of like, wait, there's like a surrendering here. There's a deep like mother that's holding us, and so tapping into that energy. I've been praying to Mother Mary a lot, and some of these other like goddesses and saints, and just that represent like that mother energy, and it's been really powerful.
So beautiful. There's a lot of women who are in that fear state and have experienced losses. As you know, 1 in 4 have experienced a miscarriage. I mean, it's so common that we don't really talk about. And like, can you share a little bit about what helped you the most in getting through some of those really hard days?
Yeah.
And you're never over it.
I really think, honestly, it was my spiritual practice that got me through it, because I do believe like that I have this role to play. And so coming back to like, this happened to me for a reason. This is going to give me a gift. Like there's a gift in this.
Seeing a gift in it.
And I've seen it many, many times from that experience. And I'll share a quick story in a moment, but just coming like in the actual like pits of the miscarriage, which if you're listening and you've experienced one, you're like out of body, so painful, like it's a birth, in so many ways. And all that was left, was my spiritual mantra and like prayer at the end, when everything else melted away and my ego was gone and the fear was gone. And because it's just pain, you're too deep in it to even be afraid. And it was my like deep belief in my body too. I think that's the biggest thing, is like your body knows what to do. And sometimes it can feel really scary in our minds, but as women, our bodies, they got us. And like, if there's something going on in there that's going to harm us, our body's going to expel that thing. And so it actually I found a lot of gratitude for my body through the whole process. And like, instead of being mad that like it didn't take, or being mad at my body for like not being a good home, which I think a lot of energy can go to that side. I was like, wow, my body knew this was not going to be a healthy pregnancy and like handled it almost without me.
Wow.
You know, like I was there, but like my body was doing the contracting and the expelling, and like it was really cool. And so it ended up being really spiritual for me in the end. However, I felt so unprepared for the moment itself. I feel that we're just sent away from the hospital with like no information. And so recently, one of my close friends had to miscarry, and I texted her through the whole thing and like helped her prepare. And I said, you know, say prayers and light the candles, and like, you know, wait till you're ready to take the pill, because then, you know, things start to happen, and here's what you can expect, and it's going to hurt, but like your body knows what to do. Just like had this whole like, and she said it was such a more spiritual, like feminine sort of like experience than scary, because I was able to sort of prepare her and help her with that piece of it. And that alone is the gift. Like just to be able to help one woman through it on the other side was just so healing for me. And I'd realized how far I'd healed in it. So there's so many gifts, but I think just reminding myself through that process that like my body's taking care of me, and this is what, for whatever reason, like this is my journey, and it's time to lean in and sort of like figure this out. Right. And then it led to me taking such good care of myself, and like, you know, really diving into 6 months of preparation.
And how far along are you now?
I'm almost 4.5 months.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And how are you feeling? Are you loving your changing body? And we were talking about that before the call.
No, I'm feeling no.
Oh.
My pregnancy has been really challenging. I started throwing up, like violent vomiting, nausea, exhaustion, like immediate weight gain, like I mean every pregnancy symptom you can think of on overdrive at 6 weeks. And so now I'm 17 weeks. So it's been a while.
Oh, wow.
And just this morning threw up like 3 or 4 times today. It's just like my life now. Yeah. And for somebody that was so productive, so energetic, thinking I had 9 months to prepare, you know, I basically took a pregnancy test, and a week later have been like laid out for the last 3.5 months.
Wow.
And so that I felt unprepared for, in a similar way, actually, that I felt unprepared for the miscarriage. I'm like, why isn't anyone telling us?
We're preparing to prepare. I learned that from my friend Sarah Thompson.
Yeah, like what are we doing?
Like, preparing to prepare to, we don't, and when you haven't, you know, gone through this and you just don't know, like,
you don't know what you don't know. So I think
let's go.
In this case, ignorance was bliss for me, that I did not know that this was a possibility to be this sick. It started with like this deep, like something must be wrong, like this can't be right, to this like acceptance of like, holy shit, this is just what it means to be pregnant right now, into this like up and down of sort of like, it's acceptance now. I'm accepting that this is my journey. It's really had me slow down a lot, like we've talked about, you know, reprioritize, set even more boundaries, and make myself even less available. But when I'm like not in the nausea waves and I'm consciously aware of what's happening, it's miraculous. It's like too surreal to even comprehend. Yeah. And I like see my body growing, and I'm starting to feel little flutters and like activity. And it's the weirdest thing in the world. It's the weirdest thing.
The night of my 40th birthday, I was in San Diego, actually. I used to live out there, and I went there for my 40th birthday weekend. My husband flew me out to see my friends. I met a friend at my friend's house, and I felt the flutters for the first time the eve of my 40th birthday. I was like, this is so freaking cool. I was just like, what a gift.
It's so cool. I think that's the part that's so exciting, because I mean, I've been so sick. I actually forget that like there's a baby at the end of this. I'll be like, oh, when I'm not sick anymore. And then my husband will be like, you mean when we have a baby? Like, because I'm so sick, it's like I'm not even thinking But the gift for me in that has been being so sick has removed the fear. And after, going through a miscarriage, it's hard not to think about every second, especially the farther and farther along I get, it's almost like the scarier it would get. But because I'm so sick and I'm reminded about every hour that I'm pregnant, that's the Leela for me. Like that's the whole, karma of the thing. And I know that it's actually a gift.
Was that your word at Erin's event? Was that the word?
Dharma.
Dharma was your word. Because and I have a lot of notes on about knowing your gifts, and people need what you have, and we touch people's lives through our gifts. And so I was just like, but you're talking about so much about gratitude, and I really appreciate that, because that is a powerful energy to carry with you on your path to motherhood.
That's the one that's the energy that hasn't wavered. I would say that every other energy has really wavered through this process. But the gratitude, it's a paradox. I mean, it's the ultimate paradox, being so miserable, but the only thing worse than this would be to not be pregnant anymore, Yeah. So it's if I have to feel sick every single day, and that's just what this journey wants from me, then I'll take it 100 times over, because that's, the other side of this would be not to be pregnant. That would just be, so devastating. So I think that's where the gratitude comes from. It's well, this is horrible, but I'm still pregnant. And early on, when I was really afraid, before we heard the heartbeat and that really tense couple of weeks. And my acupuncturist said, every day you're pregnant is a good day. And I really have kept that with me throughout this whole journey, is every single day that I still wake up pregnant is a really good day. And that's been sort of my mantra through it. But no, it has not been glowing. It has not been easy.
It's hard to see it now. You might really miss these days. And I mean,
people, I showed my friend my belly the other day, and I just feel I'm in that in between of really, really bulky, but not quite pregnant yet. So I'm just bulky everywhere. And I showed her my belly, and she was like, I miss that.
I do. I had the swollen, my feet, my legs, and I'd wear the compression hose for felt like a couple months, and elevating. I will take it all. We only had one embryo through IVF, one healthy embryo out of 7, 2 egg retrievals, multiple surgeries, with one embryo holding on. And I know Fertility Sisters in a heartbeat would trade places with you, that people would take it all. The vomiting, all of it, whatever. I mean, it is such a hard ride. And I know you don't.
It is such a hard ride.
And it through your friends,
Oh yeah. And family. I have very close friends and family all going through IVF right now. Wow. And it's honestly been so eye-opening for so many reasons. Just I'm learning so much, and just to hear that is actually really hopeful for me with my friends, because the one embryo scenario has been a couple times now. So to hear that that's what you got, and that's all you needed.
I mean, and I can't have any more children, and she's just that's our blessing for sure.
Yeah. And it's incredible. And I just have learned so much and found so much gratitude. And it's funny because my friend right now is really deep in the IVF journey, just really having a struggle, and I'm having a struggle, and we're finding solid, or we're finding that sort of space to vent to each other, and just be in it together, even though we're on totally different sides of the journey. We're on the journey to motherhood. And I think the minute you set your intention to it, you're on the journey. And and it's, what? The journey's brutal. And for so many people, it's really brutal. But even moms I know who seemingly have looked like they've had perfect pregnancies, the postpartum depression, there's just every part of the journey that we have to go through to become mothers is insane to me.
And Emery, your best friend, has spoke about this, and I heard your interview that you both had on your podcast.
Yeah, I mean, the postpartum really took a toll on her. And I mean, just, yeah, from the outside, it can look really easy. And I think that's sort of the common misconception. We see other women on the journey
Right.
and it seems really easy and in flow for them. And for anybody who has had that experience, incredible, like you're holding the torch for us, and holding that light. But for the most part, I don't know a single one of my friends who has either had a mom, had a miscarriage, is going through IVF, is on some part of the journey that it just hasn't been, traumatic and just so scary. And
Yeah. And
I'm
it
just,
changes you. It completely, I mean, you're
yeah.
experiencing it now. You're in the transition, you know?
It changes you. I mean, even the first time, after I went through it, I just had this holy, profound respect for mothers everywhere, soon to be mothers, mothers on the journey.
Yeah.
And I think, my prayer is that that you're already a mother if you've like set that intention
Yeah.
and it's coming. And I've just heard like the most beautiful stories, and yeah, I just have so much hope.
Thank you for sharing about the power of intention. It's so, so important to have just like a mantra, a guiding your North Star, what you're aiming for. And one of mine was always expect something wonderful to happen. It was just like, I was in that mindset of just like, okay. And I had setback after setback, but it was like, it's all guiding me closer
Yeah.
to this dream happening for
Yeah.
me. And manifesting, I'm all about that. So it's like your thoughts are powerful, and what we're thinking about, telling ourselves on a regular basis, like it's so important to like stay in the vibration of the
It
hope and
can be so hard though, like when you're in the
oh
middle of it, like, and even myself, I don't want to be told to think positive when I'm like having such a dark experience. So I think like what you're saying is so important to know that that choice is there.
yeah,
Like if you are overcome by the sadness and the darkness and the whole thing, that's okay. It's part of your journey. But also to know that there is like a choice to choose the gratitude and choose
yeah,
the trust. And it's totally up to you. And you get to choose which one, you want to be in that moment. And some days I'm not in gratitude. I'm just, letting the waves take me. But
yeah,
other days, even in the midst of the waves, I can really stay in it. And it affects it affects my whole day.
yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
for just talking so openly about this. I love these rich
I
conversations.
do too. Well, so many. I love what you do.
Thank
I think
you.
it's such important work. And I think, I'm at that age. I'm 33 years old. So like almost every single one of my friends is like somewhere
Yeah.
on this journey.
Yeah.
And it's like very present for me right now.
It very much is. I mean, that age, I mean, I got started later in life, 37, going through IVF, 38, having a baby at 40.
Hey,
So,
I mean, that's probably going to be me my second time around
oh, no. Do you
if
want
there's
to
a
have a
second.
large, what do you envision do you want to have many kids?
Well, I always thought too, because I have a sister and that was lovely.
Mhm.
But now that I'm so sick, I'm like, would I do this again? But
No.
I was talking to a nurse, and she said it's really hard to be this sick your first time because you don't know the magic that awaits.
Oh.
And so if you like knew or just got to like have a minute with like your
Mhm.
baby 6 months from now, this would be, totally different for you. But it's just hard to imagine most days that that's what's happening.
You're going to be
She,
the most incredible mom. I mean, with all the Reiki, like I know my daughter has been benefited from all the Reiki that I did when I was pregnant, trying to conceive. And I just thought of a new thing for you, witchy baby. There you
Witchy baby, she's on her way. Well, my
go.
mom actually is like the OG Reiki. She was doing Reiki like way before it was cool
Wow.
and has been Reikiing us for years. So
Oh,
much so she would be like, "Hun, can I Reiki you?" And I'd be like, "Mom, no, like stop Reikiing." Like a
oh my
teenager,
gosh,
like,
that's so amazing.
"Stop Reikiing me. I did not give you my permission." And now I'm just like, wow, she really knew what
Wow.
she was doing and was really called to it way sooner than, the the current sort of trend. And I'm just so grateful that I had that influence from my mom. And I definitely think passing down that's what I really want to pass down, because I have a lot going on. There's a lot of anxiety. There's a lot of energy. Okay.
We're back. It paused.
Oh, good. But I was just thinking that I'm at the end of the day, like when I think about the good energies I get to pass down, I'm just like so grateful I have these tools. Because so much of it is hereditary, the anxiety and you know, just the way that I live. And my grandma, I could still feel her with me. She was like this anxious little ball. And I'm like, man, if she just had Reiki, you know, and like had some of these tools that we have. So I feel really lucky to be becoming a mom now, with like the knowledge and sort of wisdom and understanding I have of.
Yeah. Do you know what you're having? You don't have to share. Do you know the gender?
A girl.
You are having a girl. Oh my gosh. Well, wait till she, like my daughter, she loves charging the rocks, the crystals under the moon. And she like,
I can't even like,
I mean, it is the cutest thing. Like she went to a crystal shop and she picked out her own little pendulum. I'm like, oh my gosh, Olivia, like it's.
How old is she?
She's 4.5.
Stop.
No, I mean, let me tell you, we could go into a whole conversation about this, the symbols, the signs, there's a strong presence of my mom who she got to meet my daughter, and she passed when my daughter was 11 months. There's a lot behind it, but there's such a spirit of my mom in her, and we'll be out at the park. She'll look at the water. There's Grammy. I mean, she's so in tune. She's so connected. It's like,
well, the kids are, and we were born that way. And so if we can keep like honoring those gifts, I think it's so exciting. And just to think about, I think for me, I'm so much in like the infant, like even envisioning an infant is like surreal. But I was getting my nails done a couple weeks ago, and this mom came in with her girl, and she was like 4 or 5 and had this whole experience of the world. She knew what colors she wanted to get, and she knew how it made her feel, and she like was curious and had all these questions. And I was like, this is my life like less than 5 years from now. And I just got really emotional that I'm going to have like a friend, because I just haven't had a lot of time to process what it's really going to mean to have a daughter. And my friend recently brought over her 2-year-old, and she's almost 3, but I mean, so aware. I'm like, how do you feel about Ayla leaving preschool? And I was sad, but I'm okay now. Like processing emotions at 3 years old. I'm like,
I just got pictures yesterday of my daughter. She's going to kindergarten in the fall. Okay. Like, and they did cap and gown pictures yesterday at school with holding the diploma and the cap and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like teary. It was just like, what? How is this happening? It goes so fast. And everyone says that, but you are going to be like the most incredible mom. I'm so happy for you. Like,
thank you. Yeah. And it's been, a journey, and I think I'm so, so happy about it. And the more that I can like share honestly about my journey and continue to, just keep people updated in a Krista honest way, I just plan to hopefully continue to support mamas and women as much as I can, because it's a trip. And I think before, it's like, I hate to say it's a club or something like that, but I remember when both of my friends were pregnant, or when my other friends had been going through IVF in the past, before I was like really thinking about becoming a mom, and they were just miserable, and I like had very little compassion for them. And now if I hear anybody like, oh, we're thinking of conceiving, or oh, we've done a round of IVF, or whatever, there's like, how can I support? What do you need? Like the amount of just like, I'm with you. And that to me has been the ultimate gift, is like all of these mothers on Instagram and just all over reaching out to me with like incredible support. Like there's like this, I feel like the moms of the world are like the fungi, like the mushrooms, like they're all connected, like communicating all the time.
I love
And
that.
as soon as you like tap into it, it's like a part of the whole system.
It's a rich
And
community. And I love
I
that
feel
you're saying
it.
being present for people, holding space,
Yeah.
holding the space, and that you care. It's not like giving more advice, but just
Yeah, I have found personally that the mama community that's come forward, again, you call it in, there's no judgment. It's all support. I've heard horror stories of, people giving advice and things like that. And I haven't found that. I've just found nothing but support, and it's been really beautiful.
Oh, well, I can't wait to see it all unfolding, and I'll get to with Witchy Business. I'll be
Yeah.
month. I'll be like following along your story, your journey.
I know when we launched Witchy Business, I knew I was pregnant.
And you shared it on our call. Like you were.
Yeah, I shared it on the second one, but on the first one, I almost threw up. And on the second one, I showed up and I was so sick and was so out of breath. And I was so self-conscious about being out of breath and looking bigger. And I'm just like, you know what? I had no intention of sharing it. And I just like stopped myself and was like, I just need to tell you guys something. Like, I'm so sick and so pregnant and I can't breathe and I'm judging myself. And so I just want you to know that's what's going on. And then I just continued my talk, and I'm so glad I share. I'm so glad I share.
Vulnerability, what is it? What do they say? Breeds connection. And you just cultivated this incredible group of women. I'm really so honored to be a part of that group.
It's an amazing group. We're all on a mission to, whether it's a service-based business, whatever it is that we do, I think we're all on a purpose-driven mission, and it's a way to support people on that mission holistically.
For sure.
Because we put so much into our work and our clients. So
I know, and you pour into your audience at Authentic Audience Podcast and your website. Can you share a little bit where people can find you?
Yeah, so we just actually redid our website. It's very exciting. I'm not sure when this comes out, but we're doing a launch next week for that. And it's just authenticaudience.co, and everything is there. We've created a very cool ecosystem, and you can find the podcast, all of our resources, a lot of information on business growth and marketing strategies and growing your email list, and some of these really effective ways that I support our clients in growing their businesses. So the podcast is everything from business to me spilling the tea on the first trimester and everything in between. So similar to this, powerful conversations with powerful people that inspire me. And I have a new episode coming out weekly on there.
Awesome. Well, thank you for all the work you do. It's a joy to be connected.
Thank you for having me. I love this conversation, and I hope to have more like this.
Hey, thank you. And for anyone who's on the IVF path and looking for extra support, reach out to me at ivfmanifestingamiracle.com. All right. Thank you so much, Krista.
Thank you.